You ever scroll through YouTube and suddenly you're 3 hours deep watching videos about a topic you didn't even know you cared about? Like, you started with one video about fixing your bike tire, and now you're watching a 40-minute documentary about the history of rubber manufacturing. How did that happen? Here's what nobody tells you. You think you're choosing what to watch next, but that's not what's happening at all. YouTube predicted your next 12 clicks before you even finished your current video. And the scary part? It's right about 80% of the time. In the next 15 minutes, you're gonna understand how the internet predicts your behavior with freaky accuracy. Because here's the thing, it's not reading your mind. It's doing something way more powerful than that. And once you see how it works, you'll never scroll the same way again. So let's talk about what's really happening every time you open an app. Picture this. It's 11:30 at night. You're lying in bed, telling yourself you'll watch just one more video before sleep. You click on a cooking tutorial. 15 seconds in, YouTube's already loading 3 other videos it thinks you'll watch next. And here's the wild part, it's not guessing. It's calculating based on what 3 million people who watched this exact video did immediately after. You think you're making independent choices. You think you're following your genuine interests. But what's actually happening is you're following a path that millions of people walked before you. And YouTube mapped every step. Here's the gap nobody talks about. We believe our clicks reflect our unique preferences and spontaneous decisions. But YouTube sees something completely different. It sees patterns, predictable patterns. Patterns so consistent that it can predict your next move with the same confidence that Netflix knows you're gonna watch the next episode at 3 in the morning. And this matters because every single platform you use, Instagram, TikTok, Amazon, Spotify, they're all running the same prediction game. They're not just tracking what you do, they're predicting what you'll do next. And they're reshaping your entire digital experience based on those predictions. It's not about privacy, not really. It's about something deeper. Your behavior online isn't as unique as you think it is. You're following patterns you don't even know exist. And once these platforms identify your pattern, they can guide you wherever they want. That's what's actually happening behind the screen. So how does YouTube know you're about to click on that video before you do? Let me show you something that might blow your mind. There's this pattern I call the similarity trap. This is when the algorithm realizes that you're statistically similar to thousands of other users, and it just plays you their greatest hits. Think about it this way. You watch a video about making sourdough bread. Seems random, right? Just you following a cooking interest, but YouTube immediately tags you with about 40 different characteristics. You're interested in cooking, you watch videos longer than 10 minutes, you prefer content with calm background music, you tend to watch in the evening. You rarely skip the first minute. Now here's where it gets sneaky. YouTube has seen this exact profile thousands of times. It knows exactly what people like you watch next, not people who watched this one video. People whose entire viewing pattern matches yours. Your watch history, your search history, what time you're active, how long you watch, what you skip, what you rewatch. You're not a unique individual to YouTube. You're a cluster of behavioral patterns. And that cluster has a predictable trajectory. This matters because you think you're exploring your interests organically, but you're not. You're being fed content based on what your statistical twins consumed. YouTube isn't showing you what you want. It's showing you what people like you wanted. Those are not the same thing. Think about Maria. She's trying to learn guitar. She watches a beginner tutorial. YouTube sees this and immediately compares her to everyone else who watched that video. Most of them watch tutorial 2, then tutorial 5, then a video about chord progressions, then somehow ended up watching concert footage. So YouTube cues that exact path for Maria. Maria thinks she's following her curiosity, but she's actually following a highway that millions of people drove before her. The algorithm isn't responding to her unique journey. It's guiding her down the statistically optimal path for engagement. Your brain does this thing where it feels like free will because you're physically clicking, but the choice architecture is so refined that you're basically selecting from a pre-approved menu designed specifically for your behavioral profile. And that menu was built to keep you watching, not necessarily to serve your actual interests. But here's where things get even more interesting. There's another pattern that's particularly sneaky. I call it the engagement spiral. YouTube doesn't just predict what you'll click. It predicts how long you'll watch, whether you'll come back tomorrow, and whether you'll click the next recommended video. And here's the kicker, it optimizes for all three simultaneously. So let's say you watch a 10-minute video about productivity tips. YouTube tracks exactly when you started getting bored. Maybe you checked your phone at the 7-minute mark. Maybe you slowed your scroll at minute 3. Maybe you rewound a specific section. All of this gets recorded and analyzed. Now, YouTube knows your engagement pattern. It knows you lose interest after about 8 minutes unless there's a dramatic hook. It knows you respond well to quick tips presented visually. It knows you watch more when the creator uses specific phrases or music choices. So what does it do? It finds videos that match your engagement sweet spot. Not just your interests, your attention span, your psychological triggers, your specific dopamine delivery system. This is why you keep watching, even when you're not that interested. The algorithm isn't giving you better content, it's giving you content engineered to match your exact engagement profile. It's like if Starbucks tracked exactly how much sugar and caffeine hits your optimal satisfaction point, then customized every drink to that formula. You're not consuming what you love, you're consuming what keeps you consuming. Think about David. David watches a lot of NBA highlights, but he doesn't watch full games. He watches clips between 3 and 5 minutes long. He tends to skip the first 15 seconds. He watches more when the thumbnail shows a dramatic dunk or celebration. YouTube learns all of this, so it stops recommending full game replays. It shows David specifically edited highlight packages that match his viewing pattern. Clips that start with immediate action. Content that fits his exact time commitment. Videos with thumbnails engineered to trigger his specific click response. David thinks he's just really into basketball, but what he's really into is a very specific type of basketball content delivery that matches his neurological reward system. And YouTube is feeding him increasingly refined versions of that exact formula. Here's what makes this even more wild. Your brain evolved to seek patterns and make predictions. Back when we were hunting and gathering, pattern recognition kept us alive. See berries here? Probably more berries over there. Hear that? Rustling? Probably a predator. Our ancestors who predicted patterns survived. The ones who didn't became lunch. But in today's digital world, that same pattern-seeking brain makes you incredibly predictable. You think you're exploring, but you're following patterns, and the algorithm learned your patterns faster than you did. Let me blow your mind for a second with something nobody wants to admit. What's actually happening is that YouTube and every other platform aren't just predicting your behavior, they're shaping it. This isn't about showing you what you already want, it's about creating what you'll want next. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The algorithm doesn't find your interests, it manufactures them. It takes your vague preferences and crystallizes them into specific content patterns that maximize engagement. Then it feeds you increasingly refined versions of those patterns until you can't imagine wanting anything else. Think about how this actually works. You watch one video about minimalism. Interesting topic. You're curious. YouTube sees this and floods your recommendations with minimalism content. Suddenly, you're watching video after video about decluttering, tiny houses, capsule wardrobes. Within a week, you think you're deeply passionate about minimalism. But are you? Or did the algorithm identify a slight interest and then amplify it into an obsession by making minimalism content the path of least resistance? Every time you open the app, there it is. More minimalism, different angles, different creators, same core topic, and each video leads to 3 more. This is why trends explode so fast online. It's not organic interest spreading naturally. It's algorithms identifying emerging patterns and then force multiplying them across millions of users who show even slight susceptibility. You become interested because the algorithm made it impossible not to be interested. And here's why this is so hard to see. It feels like discovery. It feels like you're finding content that matches your authentic self. But your digital self is increasingly a reflection of what the algorithm trained you to want. The platform and your preferences are co-evolving, and the platform has way more control in that relationship than you do. This is why everyone in your demographic seems to be into the same stuff at the same time. It's not coincidence. It's not zeitgeist. It's coordinated algorithmic exposure based on behavioral clustering. You're all getting fed the same content because you all fit similar statistical profiles, and the algorithm knows exactly which content keeps profiles like yours engaged. Let me tell you about two people who handle this completely differently. Ashley's a college student who loves learning new things. She watches a video about quantum physics. Pretty interesting. YouTube immediately starts recommending more physics content. Ashley clicks, then more. Then she's watching physics videos for hours. Within 2 weeks, her entire feed is physics content. Different channels, different styles, all physics. Ashley's proud of this. She tells her friends she's really into physics now. Maybe she'll minor in it. But here's what Ashley doesn't realize. She's not actually that into physics. She's into the specific way YouTube delivers physics content to her. Short explanations with good visuals, charismatic presenters, topics that sound impressive but don't require math. She never opens a physics textbook, never tries to work through actual problems, never engages with physics outside of YouTube's curated algorithm feed. She's not interested in physics. She's interested in YouTube's gamified version of physics education that's optimized for her engagement pattern. Ashley thinks she discovered a passion, but what she really discovered was a content trap perfectly designed for her psychological profile. And 6 months later, when the algorithm shifts to something else, her physics obsession will vanish just as quickly. Now compare that to James. James also watches that quantum physics video, also finds it interesting. But James does something different. He actively seeks out content YouTube isn't recommending. He searches for topics the algorithm wouldn't predict. He follows creators outside his usual pattern. He deliberately breaks his viewing habits. When YouTube recommends 10 physics videos, James watches 2, then jumps to music theory, then reads an article, then watches something totally unrelated. He's aware that the algorithm is trying to lock him into a pattern, so he refuses to follow the script. James's feed stays diverse, his interests remain broad, and more importantly, James maintains agency over what he consumes. He's not letting statistical predictions determine his intellectual diet. He's using the platform as a tool, not following it as a guide. Notice how Ashley outsourced her curiosity to the algorithm? She let YouTube decide what she should care about based on one initial click. James kept his curiosity under his own control. He used recommendations as suggestions, not as a roadmap. Here's what most people don't realize about why this matters so much. It's not actually about what you watch at all. It's about who gets to decide what you're interested in. The algorithm doesn't discover your authentic preferences. It creates a version of you that's optimized for engagement and then convinces you that's who you really are. The people who maintain control aren't the ones who avoid platforms. They're the ones who understand they're in a constant negotiation with prediction systems. Every click is a vote for what you'll see next. Every watch is training data for your future feed. And if you're not aware of this, you're not choosing your content, your pattern is choosing it for you. These patterns aren't personal failures. They're predictable traps built into systems designed to maximize engagement. But now that you understand how the prediction game works, you can play it differently. You can recognize when you're being fed content based on your statistical profile versus your actual interests. You can deliberately break patterns. You can reclaim agency. So here's what we've uncovered. The internet predicts your next click by clustering you with millions of similar users and playing their behavioral patterns forward. Remember the similarity trap? You're not unique to the algorithm, you're a statistical profile. And the engagement spiral? The platform optimizes not for what you love, but for what keeps you watching. Plus, there's that deeper truth we explored. These systems don't just predict your interests, they manufacture them. They take vague preferences and amplify them into obsessions by making specific content the path of least resistance. Your digital self is increasingly a creation of algorithmic training, not authentic choice. The question isn't whether these platforms can predict what you'll click next. They absolutely can. The question is whether you'll recognize when you're following a prescribed pattern versus making genuine choices. Because now you know the algorithm sees you as a cluster of behavioral data points. You can't unknow that. You have more power than you think. Every time you deliberately choose something outside your recommended feed, you break the pattern. Every time you notice yourself 3 hours deep in content and ask, did I want this or did the algorithm want this for me? You're reclaiming agency. Every time you search instead of scroll, you're choosing instead of being chosen. So next time you open YouTube or Instagram or TikTok, ask yourself, am I following my curiosity or following a statistical prediction about people like me? Because those are two completely different things. And once you see that difference, you'll never consume content the same way again. The algorithm is powerful, but you're not powerless. You just have to understand the game you're playing.